The second secret to a more connected family in the 21st century is emotional control. I want to start by asking you to do something for me. Take your hand and put it like this. Okay? Just make a donut with your pointer finger and your thumb. Now what I want you to do is I want you to bring it up to your chin. Okay? Just bring it up to your chin. Now I want you to take a look and see, did you bring it up to your chin or do you have it on your cheek? I can almost bet you have it on your cheek. Here's why. Because 93% of communication is non-verbal. Only 7% of communication today is verbal. And yet, we put so much text out into the world to see without getting tone of voice, without anybody truly understanding facial expressions or the demeanor in which we're saying it. It is so important today to have emotional control for ourselves and for our children when it comes to technology. Let's start with ourselves. How often do we get on Pinterest? How often do we get on Facebook? How often do we get on a social media site and compare ourselves to what other people are doing? I want to ask you that question, and I want you to assess where you're at with that. Do you get envious of where other people are, where they're vacationing, what they have in their house? Pinterest is ripe for comparison today. The question I also want to ask you in relation to this is, does it make you depressed? Does it get your mood down? And do you find yourself editing pictures, putting them in the Valencia filter or any other filters to make your life look more glamorous than it might actually be to the public? Are you setting others up to envy you? Because the reality is in a lot of cases, the lives that we see publicly are not the lives that are lived privately. And yet we become envious and frustrated because we're not living that life. Now, if that's where you are, imagine where your kids are. Because your kids today are following celebrities on Twitter. They're following people on Facebook and Instagram. And what they're doing is they're setting up their own identities based on the number of followers, likes, and comments they're receiving on these social media websites. They've become celebrities in their own little world. And what it's doing is it's increasing the level of self-centeredness, i.e. selfie, the 2013 word of the year by Oxford University Press. And we're creating more narcissistic, self-centered generation focused on their own celebrity status in their own little world than we are creating love and empathy in the hearts of our kids. This is the emotional control that I'm talking about. The next level of emotional control is putting facts only in emails, putting facts only in posts and statuses that we post for the public to see. If your kids, or even if you are in conflict over text messages or over social media, that's not healthy, as nonverbal communication accounts for 93% of communication. We need to model picking up the phone and calling. If you're frustrated over an email, if you're frustrated over a text, if you're frustrated over something that somebody sends to you, pick up the phone and call them. Put only facts in emails. I believe the reason we have such a divide today in our culture and the reason that we're dehumanizing people more and more is because of the anonymity of the internet. We can hide behind a screen. We don't have to show ourselves. One last point. We have mirror neurons in our brain. And the amount of time that it takes to process negative emotion when you're face to face with somebody takes a lot longer than the time that it takes to type a message back to them. What does that mean? It means that we never really truly feel the pain of another person or the pain that we're inflicting on them in the amount of time that it takes to write something back than if we were face to face with them. So here's what I want you to do today. Ask yourself this question. Am I modeling for my kids healthy emotional control when it comes to technology? Am I teaching my kids the importance of emotional control and what they're putting out there for the public to see. Because the consequences could be legal, they could come back on you if there's bullying taking place by your kids and someone commits suicide because of it. The legal consequences, the job consequences for your kids later on. Employers look these things up online. Our kids need to understand to maintain emotional control online because it's there forever. What I want you to do today, here's this action step to take. Do an evaluation of how much time you're spending on social media and the emotions. Keep an emotional log of the emotions that you get when you get on Facebook, Pinterest, or whatever social media sites you enjoy being on. What are the emotions that are tied to certain pictures? What are you trying to get out of it? And do an assessment on that. And then evaluate where your children are. Talk to them about the importance of this. Because I pray that your identity is not in what other people think, but I pray that your identity is in what God thinks of who you are.